All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Matt Halloran. Matt, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show, man.
Listen, man, I'm super excited to be here, and I know you're going to do this too. But I want to give a shout out to the folks at podcastguest.com because that's how I found you, bro.
Yeah.
We've already had a great conversation before we've even started to
Yeah,
record. So
yeah, absolutely. And I am really grateful to Jessica and the folks over there at Podcast Guest because I have met some absolutely amazing podcast guests through those guys. And like you alluded to, Matt, we already had a
yeah,
conversation and kind of got to know each other. And it's like, you meet people and like you're one of those guys. Because your book, it's right behind you there. Shut the F up and listen. And like when I saw that book, I was like, oh, this guy is totally in the same place as me, man. We're gonna resonate so good. And on our first conversation, we just totally hit it off. And I am really been looking forward to this conversation and doing this interview with you today. And so what I want to do is I just want to start by turning it over to you, Matt.
mhm.
Let's set a little bit of context. Let's let the folks know, what you do, Matt, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work you do and the impact you're making in the world. And maybe if you feel so inclined, share a little bit of the backstory of how you even got into doing what you do.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually going to start there because I think this is
Okay.
a fun story. Um, I got my master's degree as a therapist and as a life coach. And I really wish my professor would have told me early on that I wasn't going to be a good therapist after $70,000 of student loan debt. And so that actually came to fruition, man. It didn't work out. And I'd cry on my way home every day because, dude, people just do horrible things to people. And then they would come in and sit down and talk to me about all this horrible things that happened in their lives. And it was the way that I was able to just kind of get rid of it, right? And my wife looks at me and she said, how much longer can you do this? And I said, I don't think I can do it much longer. So I went on monster.com and I typed in life coach. And two things came up. Vistage, right, which is a huge
Yep.
international
Yep.
organization, and they wanted like this huge capital investment, and I was broke. And this other company called Peak. Now, we were living in Omaha, Nebraska at the time, and I didn't really know much about the organization. But it said they were looking for a life coach, and I have a master's degree as a life coach. I'm like, this is me. I can do this. They said no 7 times. 7 times. I applied, no, applied, no, applied, no. And so finally, after the seventh time, they said no. I said, okay, look, here's what I want to do. Give me 15 minutes with this guy. His name is Ron Carson. Give me 15 minutes with him. And if he says no, I will never talk to you ever again. And the funny thing about all of this is I found out later after I actually ended up getting hired there. He said to me, Matt, one of my favorite words is a word that I created called persidity. And persidity is persistence mixed with stupidity. And if you have those two things, you're unstoppable. And he's like, and you've got that in spades. So what I did was I bought the most expensive suit I could buy, and I walked into his office, and I was not prepared for this. I had no idea who this guy was. I didn't realize that he was the number one producer at LPL, which is the largest broker dealer for financial advisors in North America. And I said, here's the deal. Like, just cocksure. I mean, it was just, I was like, peacock and whatever I could do, right, to get this guy's attention. And I said, pay me half of what you're paying everybody else, and I guarantee you within the first 6 months, I'm going to be your best coach. And he goes, okay.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so within 6 months, I was at number two, actually. There's a guy who was better than me, but that was fine. So I performed. I got up to pay where I, should have been paid. Um, and that's actually how I cut my teeth in financial services. So I was never a financial advisor, but I've coached over 1,000 financial advising firms. Um, Worked for him for about 6 years, 5 years. Wrote my first book, The Social Media Handbook for Financial Advisors. I went out on my own, started my own business. Um, and then I met this crazy Canadian guy. We met at a conference, and him and I, kind of like what you and I did, but we just like really hit it off. He was really kind of burned out with what he was doing, and I was pretty burned out on what I was doing. And we're like, let's just try to do something totally different. And
Okay. Okay.
We did. We created Proudmouth, which is the largest podcasting and show production company for financial advisors in North America, where we've done over 10,000 episodes and
Wow.
over 150,000 social media posts. And the reason is so all of that leads to the ultimate thing that ended up happening with Kirk and my partnership, which is we stopped financial advice from being gate kept. So, Kevin, you
Okay.
know this, dude. Like, everybody's an expert. They got their secret sauce, right? Well, I'm not going to talk to you unless you have $250,000 of investable assets.
Mhm.
We made all of it live for anybody to listen to. It's all out there. Thousands of episodes for the general public to find out what ultra wealthy do, what business owners do, what life insurance is. And we've made it now so that anybody in the United States, North English speaking countries, can now go ahead and get great free financial advice. And we're really proud of that, man.
Wow. Very cool. And so, how did that impact the business by just putting it all out there and just
Right.
giving it away what everybody else is charging for and stuff?
Listen, that was our business model from the beginning, right? So we decided that we were going to do whatever we possibly could to give away all of our secret sauce. We were going to give for Proudmouth specifically, and then convincing the advisors to do the same thing. Uh, our advisors have brought in tens of millions of dollars in new assets directly from their podcast by following the system that we've built. And honestly, marketing is fundamentally changed, man. And in our industry specifically, it's like the 1900s, which my kids remind me all the time, Dad, you were born in the 1900s, which makes me feel old, but whatever.
Right,
It wasn't
right.
that
Yeah.
long ago, damn it. But
It doesn't seem like it, but it's been a
it
while.
doesn't. And so they need to get into this newer kind of marketing because listen, I can get an AI bot to build me a model portfolio right now, Kevin. Not a problem. And guess what's going to be good, right? But the one thing that AI can't do, or robots or apps or whatever, is really know who you are. And so we believe in having our clients create fundamentally real, organic, personally driven, story based content in order so that people get to know them, they become fans, and then here's what ends up happening. They come in and they're pre-sold, dude. It's absolutely fantastic. And everything that we do for our clients, we've done for ourselves too.
That was powerful what you just said. In fact, I was just sitting here writing it down that AI can never know who you really are, And I mean, AI is absolutely amazing. It's mind blowing,
It
really.
is, dude.
And but I have long believed and still do, and that it's never going to take the place of real, meaningful relationship. It's just not going to be able to. It'll do a lot of other things, but it certainly ain't going to do that. And yeah, what you just said is like, yeah. See, I mean, you and I are in such alignment on so many things,
Mhm.
man. And so,
Well,
okay,
it's about
so
that human connection, dude. And that's,
yeah.
you can't replace that. You just can't replace that. Now we have taken a sidestep because I've never shaken your hand, given you a hug, seen you in person, right? But we still were able to make a digital eye to eye connection. And I think that that's one of the things that technology has really helped
Yeah.
all of us to be able to meet people we never would have been able to meet before.
Yeah. And the I spend a lot of time on Zoom because I'm having conversations with entrepreneurs all the time,
Right.
and it's the next best thing to be in there in person, and I love the intimacy of it versus talking on the telephone.
Mhm.
And granted, like we're coming up on summertime and spring and summertime here again, and I and so instead of sitting here in my office on a Zoom. I do like to get outside in the nice warm weather and sit on the
Yeah.
back patio and talk on the phone, And so, but Zoom is definitely, a lot more personal than the phone for sure, because you can see each other and you have that closer contact, And you're right, man. Technology. I mean, it wasn't that many years ago when this wasn't even like when we were kids. You kidding me? There
No,
was nothing like this,
no.
and the fact that we can also do this Like from here?
Yeah,
I mean, isn't that, I mean, it's mind blowing what we have today, like this massive computer in our pocket that does so much stuff that like it used to, you'd have to house it in a warehouse,
that's
when
right.
we were kids, and
Yeah.
so, and phenomenal. It's mind blowing. Well, okay. So Matt, now that we've got a little bit of context set
Mhm.
here, I want to switch gears just a little bit. I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of our listeners. And so, Matt, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah. So I mean, there are probably three or four people, but I'm going to really focus on one specifically.
Okay.
My partner and I had started, and the company was called Top Advisor Marketing because mine was called Top Advisor Coaching, and I had really strong brand awareness in our area. But we really wanted to do something really different. We have always been leading edge, very disruptive in a very conservative industry, right?
Uh-huh.
And so my partner went to this conference. It's called The Gathering, and it's in Banff, Canada, and it's
Okay.
this private marketing event. And it is the best of the best marketing and branding people in the world descend here every year just to hang out, right? Share ideas, keynote speakers like, Apple's marketing person and, Facebook and all of these unbelievable people. And my partner ran into this guy, his name's Rob Howard. And so we engaged Rob and his team to rebrand us from Top Advisor Marketing to Proudmouth. And the process that we went through, how it made us rethink who we are, what we do, uh, changed everything, dude. Like we went from being probably a 10th tier marketing company in financial services to I was just voted as the 10th most influential person in financial services this last year, right? And it's all because of the brand, the message, the clarity. But he said so many things. He also wrote a great book called Fix: How to Create a Cult Brand. And one of the things that really made me go from, I think I was like in the mid 20s last year, mid teens last year to number 10, was he said, every great brand, each of the founders have to have their own identity, right?
Mhm.
Because yes, everybody knows me as Matt from Proudmouth, right? I mean, in financial services, I am Proudmouth, right? I mean, I've got 30 people on my team. They don't know who those people are, but I am the face of Proudmouth. But when I started stepping just a little bit to the side and showing a little bit more about who I am outside of Proudmouth, and that has to do with the book, that has to do with I'm a metal artist, right? It has to do with my wife and I bought property with some friends and we're turning it into basically a commune sort of situation, right? All of these little reveals that have happened over the time, man, I'm getting keynote speeches more often. My LinkedIn blew up, and it was all
Wow.
because this guy basically wrapped this blanket of brilliance around my partner and I and just showed us where we needed to go. And it changed everything for us. I mean, it changed everything for us. And I am so incredibly grateful for that relationship. Now, the funny thing is he only works by referrals. Like if everybody started calling Rob Howard, he's not going to answer the phone. That's not how the game works. But um, I have never been in the presence of somebody whose brain worked like that. And it
Wow.
was just freaking amazing, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sure that you will be able to come up with a number of answers to this question, and I just want you to come up with one. It'll probably be as I ask it, it'll just come top of mind for you. But if you look back on this, and I want you to come up, give us an example of where you personally you got to make a really substantial impact. And maybe when it happened, it even kind of shocked or even surprised you a little bit. And you're like, wow, that was so awesome. And you also know that would have never happened if not for your relationship with Rob. What's an example of something like that, man?
It's the book, man. And
Okay.
so I didn't write War and Peace, brother. Like this is it's not like this literary masterpiece, but this just happened today, right before our recording here. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he had posted on LinkedIn that he had purchased the book, and he said, "Matt, I don't read books." He's like, "I'm not a book. I'm an audiobook guy," which there's an audio version of my book too. But he goes, I can't believe how quickly I learned things from the book. And that was really nice. But the biggest unintended, like, if I could have written on a piece of paper and lit it on fire so that it went up to the heavens to have my prayers answered about somebody from this book, is a guy named Greg DuPont. He's a client of ours at Proudmouth, and the guy I just like a whole bunch. And he bought the book, and on the day before Valentine's Day, he posted that uh, that he knows that the greatest gift, Valentine's Day gift he could ever give his wife, is to be a better listener.
Yeah.
And he made a couple of quotes from my book. The guy's been married for 25 years, bro.
Yeah.
Right? That was like, no matter how much this book cost me, no matter how much time this thing took, and blood, sweat, and tears, and stress, and all of that, man, it just was like, there it was. That was it. Now, I'd like a million of those experiences. That would be
Totally.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But man, I just that made it all worthwhile.
Yeah. You know, and
Sometimes
like,
it's that one person, bro.
yeah.
Sometimes it's that one person's impact that just makes you get those batteries recharged.
Yeah. I mean, how many wives would say, or have we even heard this? Said, man, my husband just never listens to me, you know. And I totally used to be one of those guys, or I would listen long enough to get the solution and like, oh,
That's right.
I got this.
Right.
Let me give you the solution. And that is not what she wanted. She did not want the solution. She wanted me to shut the F up and listen.
That's right. That's right.
And
Well, a therapist friend of mine had said something to me years ago that I just hold this so closely. Um, a lot of times you should ask the question, are you asking for me to solve the problem, or are you asking for me to just listen and be here for you? And
yes,
what you're going to find out is 90% of the time, they don't want you to solve, they just need to process.
yeah,
Right. And so, and what you had is there's a difference between listening to listen and listening to respond. So most of us are trained to listen to that point.
yeah,
Got it. Bam. Bob's your uncle. That's the solution.
yeah,
But when you learn how to listen and really sit in what I call engaged listening, when you learn how to sit in that space and get comfortable in that space, people are so grateful to you for just listening so that they can process it on their own. I it is a freaking superpower, man, and it does take a lot of practice, but I really wrote this book for men to just learn how to shut the F up and listen. Most of the women who I know who've read it are like, Matt, I knew a lot of that stuff. And I didn't write it for you. I wrote it for dudes like me who need to be better. And so,
that is awesome. That is awesome. Well, I'll tell you, I don't know when I really started figuring out, but it's been a number of years ago because uh, I I love talking with entrepreneurs. And Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach has been a mentor of mine. I was in Strategic Coach for a number of years. I was in Dan's group for a number of years. And he is the best question asker in the world, man. That guy knows how to ask questions that make you think. And and so I've learned from him how to ask some really good questions that get entrepreneurs to open up and just start talking. And I mean, a really simple question to ask an entrepreneur is, "Hey, what are you working on right now that's got you the most jazzed and the most excited?" You want to get them talking?
mm,
Ask them that question. They are going to start talking. And then as they're sharing with you, you're just listening for the purpose of doing nothing but just listening.
Mhm.
And then you start asking them questions about what they're sharing. You ask for clarification. Oh, does that mean, and and I'll tell you, just doing that. And for me, I just want to get to know people. I want to get to know what really makes them tick. And so and like sometimes I piss my wife off because I ask so many damn questions all the time. And I'm like, you'd think after being together for 22 years, she'd just know that I just ask a lot of questions, you know? And so, but by when we show up that way and we're just genuinely interested in other people, like you said, people they don't experience it that often. And what happens is we end up giving them this gift that they so seldom get to receive, which is we give them the opportunity to feel seen, heard, and understood, you know. And that is such a powerful, and again, we've heard it all the time. People will remember how you made them feel way over and above. They're going to remember anything you said to them. They'll remember how you made them feel. And you listen and just be quiet and listen. You will give them that feeling, and they're going to totally love you for just being that person who listened to them and heard them out, you know. And powerful stuff. Powerful stuff.
Mm.
Matt, I am really glad that we got to have this conversation today, and I am really stoked to share this with a lot of other entrepreneurs, founders, and CEOs. And I just want to give you for anybody that's listening to this, going, man, Kevin, yeah, I'm with you. I really like Matt. I love the way Matt shows up, and I'd like to find out more about him and what he's working on, and maybe even how to get a copy of his book. Let's give them some resources. How can they do that, Matt?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is the best. Like I live on LinkedIn just because of that's where I generate the majority of my business.
Okay.
That's where I do a majority of my communication. So if you literally type in Matt Halloran Proudmouth or really just Matt Halloran, you're probably gonna. I'm sure we have connections in common. How's that?
Yeah.
Because I'm all about the connections. Proudmouth.com is the website for my day job and what I do here all day, every day. And if you want a copy of my book, if you have to, this is important. Shut the F up and listen book on Amazon. It'll come up right away.
Okay.
And I've got paperback, hardcover, Kindle, and I've got an audiobook, which I read the audiobook. As a professional podcaster, I have all of the equipment. My wife read her part of the introduction, and then the editor read his part of the introduction. And there's a lot more in the audiobook than there is in the physical book because dude, I mean, I'm sure that you have noticed this. I kind of went off a couple of times off script and was just having some fun with stuff.
Uh-huh.
There's this Leslie Jones, who's this unbelievable comedian. She was on Saturday Night Live forever, and she was being interviewed by her audiobook or about her audiobook, and they're like, Leslie, it's totally different than the regular book, and she's like, well, then you'll have to buy both, won't you? And I was like, yay, Leslie! So I absolutely love that. But yeah, I listen. I love meeting new people. I love connections. You know, if I can help you learn how to listen better, you'd make my life. If I can, help you stop being the best kept secret in your area from a content creation perspective, that would be freaking awesome too.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Matt, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. Any last thing that you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
I don't know how often people reflect back on you. And so I'd like to do that if you don't mind. Um, you have given yourself permission to be really genuine, and your level of being super comfortable with who you are, where you've been and where you're going. There's a level of approachability with you that I think is remarkable. And I'm really, really grateful to have had the opportunity to spend time with you, to get to know you. And I know that we're going to be doing it in the future. So, man, I just appreciate you a lot.
Well, thanks, Matt. I really appreciate that. And I'll tell you, I feel the same way. And it just, I gotta say, like having the conversation with you and then doing that interview with Noah Rosenfarb for the podcast, and then he starts bringing up about how he was looking to connect with somebody who was really tied in with financial advisors. And I was like, oh, and I was like, I don't think it was like 2 days after the conversation that you and I had just had.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I was like, well, I was like, this guy, Matt Halloran, he's totally tied in. I was like, that's who he serves and stuff. And so he just looked you up on LinkedIn. He's like, oh, I think I'm already connected with him on LinkedIn. I'm just going to send him a message and stuff. And I'll tell you, people might call that coincidence that, like, Noah brings up this thing, and it just so happened, Kevin, that just 2 days prior you were talking with Matt, and you were able to bring, and Noah was actually, when he saw you on LinkedIn, he was pretty excited about it. He was like, oh man, you're right, Kev, this is just the guy I should be talking to. And we people would say, oh well, what a great coincidence that is. And I will tell you that kind of thing happens all the time. It's not a coincidence. So I'll tell you another guy. This friend of mine, Nate. Nate is in procurement. He goes factory direct for the clients that he serves, and he's got certain space. Like, he's in the medical field. He's also, man, he's really entrenched in the construction industry and stuff.
Ooh.
So if you are building, so anybody who's in construction doing multifamily homes, that is doing projects between 50 and 500 homes at once, that is his idea. It's one of his ideal clients. And and danged if, like, this last week I had a conversation with this guy, and he's telling me about how he's like, yeah, I'm a real estate guy, and he's like, I've been doing this since 2017, and he's like, since 2017, he's like, I've raised $450 million for doing what I do. He's like, and for this year, I'm wanting to raise another 50 million this year and stuff. And I'm like, well, what exactly kind of stuff do you do? He's like, oh, we do multifamily homes. I'm like, oh, you do? I was like, so when you do a project, what's your typical project? And he's like, well, depending, he's like, it can vary, but he's like, typically anywhere between 100 to 250 units. I'm like, oh. I was like, you know what? I was like, my buddy Nate. I
Yeah.
was like, he might be able to help you out. And I was like, he does factory direct, and he can say he's really entrenched in the construction industry. And I was like, and he can save his clients a whole lot. I mean, we're not talking small potatoes here. As an example, one of his guys, he was spending $300,000 a month on product. He saved him $140,000 a
Oh my
month
gosh.
and got him better quality product. And I'm like, do you think that might be a conversation that you want to have? And he was like, Kevin, I would love to talk with Nate. so, and like I said, that kind of stuff happens all the time. When, you know what, but you gotta, like your book, shut the F up and listen. We gotta listen to find out where people are, and then from there amazing things can happen and stuff. And we just get to be, whether you want to call it dancing with God or the universe or whatever, there's a lot of that going on too, no doubt. Because how else do you explain that kind of stuff happening all the time? But we just open ourselves up, and we just get to be this vessel, and we
Yeah.
be the best steward of our abilities as we possibly can. And so thank you for bringing that. I really appreciate you sharing that, Matt. And I'm totally stoked to get this interview out there and share it with a lot of other entrepreneurs and stuff. So thank you again. Really appreciate you, man.
Thanks, man.